Well, hello, friends. I am Elva.
Hi, friends. I'm Nora. I'm in San Antonio.
Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about each week. We've decided that we're going to kind of go over a subject that's something of importance to us, and we feel like anyone our age is probably going through similar ideas or thoughts about different subjects. And so I chose a subject this week, and it's about regrets. And so our subject today is just going to kind of go over what I did some research, of course, about regrets, and I have, of course, some topics that I want to talk about. And then definitely, I'm sure Nora, you have some ideas or topics you want to talk about as well in regards to regrets. But let's get started.
Yeah.
So first of all, I think that a regret is something that we all have in one way or another. They said, all the research said it's very common, and that's really a disappointment or sadness about something that maybe was a missed opportunity or something didn't go the way you thought it was going to go. I did watch some videos, and they interviewed a lot of elderly people, actually all ages, but a lot of focus on elderly. And they asked them, what would their biggest regrets were, and they pretty much from watching like 100 interviews, I saw a pattern of very similar regrets. And so I thought we might just go through that list real quick. But number one was living a life that maybe someone else wanted you to live, or living by someone else's standards. And maybe it wasn't exactly something that the way you want to live your not life, maybe you're not living your authentic life. And so I can see that. I think one of the examples was that it was a family who all the family, a lot of them went into medicine. And so this individual said he felt forced to go into medicine because his father had been a doctor, his um, brothers were doctors, and but he didn't necessarily want to do that. He just felt it was kind of pressure from his family to continue that. And so he followed him and did that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's others that are in family businesses that maybe felt like the path was kind of chosen for them instead of them choosing their own path. So that was one of the common regrets. Another one was working too much. A lot of these individuals said that they enjoyed having a career, but there were times that they wouldn't take vacations because they felt like they couldn't be away from their office or their clients or their patients. And so
Mm-hmm.
they just worked too much and basically and missed a lot, or missed having meals with their families at night because they were working late because of their responsibilities. So, and I can relate to that. I do recall having a job where we traveled a lot, and I remember being gone a lot. And my kids were older at that time, but I do remember being gone a lot. And after years of doing it, I felt like I don't want to do this anymore. I've missed a lot of family dinners and other things.
Right.
Yeah, and so that was my end point, basically.
Okay. Okay.
Realizing. Another one was not expressing their true authentic self and emotions. And I think this is kind of we know that a lot of time men are brought up this way, as our boys are brought up where they're told, not to cry, not to express emotions, that, tough it out, rub some dirt on it. And a lot of these individuals said that they felt like they weren't living their true self, that they weren't allowed to have emotions. And so that was a regret, that they felt like that wasn't something, that they didn't raise their own children that way after they were raised that way, because they realized that it's not the right way to live. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Others talked about not staying in touch with their friends. And I can see that too, as we've moved from different, from Texas to Georgia. I feel like we've also kind of grown apart from some of our friends, and it's hard to keep friendships alive sometimes when you're so far away. And I do definitely think that that's a regret, that even people I worked with many years ago, many, many years ago, I often think about. I wonder where they are and what they're doing. And
Really.
yeah, after leaving a job, sometimes I didn't stay in touch with them. I think this was all before Facebook and stuff like that, when it's easier now to stay in touch with people. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't stay in touch with a lot of people I used to work with, and I do stay in touch with a few people, but I feel like that's definitely, I can relate to that one as well. So
Well, because of Facebook, you can now find them very easily.
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely
Mm-hmm.
something you can think about doing. And the last one that they all kind of said was not worrying so much about what other people think of you, or not always trying to, make other people happy, to finding your own joy and finding your own rhythm and methods, and not
Or
really.
trying to keep up with the Joneses, as they used to say. I don't know
Yeah,
if people still say that, but I think everybody's kind of done that, a little bit of that at some point in their life, and then I think as we get older, or at least for me, as I get older, I feel like I don't care what they're doing, I'm doing my thing, and that's all I can do,
that's
so
right. Yeah,
I think we get to a point at this age where it's like, okay, the less stress possible is the best. So
that's
if
right.
I don't have to stress about not having the new BMW, then I don't have to stress about it. So,
That's
or
right.
whatever it is. So
Right.
yeah.
No, I agree. I think that I think early in your career too, I think that it's almost like you're running a race. You're competing against other, coworkers, and you don't want to be the only one that's left out or something like that. So you kind of start to conform and maybe
Mhm.
act like others. I do remember this when I was when I was going to Harvard, and I did this program. And this was a very special program that I was in, uh,
Mhm.
and this fellowship. And there were 12 ladies that were amazing career ladies that all had, most of them had, well, all of us had a master's, but some even already had their PhDs.
Mhm.
And I remember we took an assessment test of your skills and your, your background. And I remember we actually then compared our results of, what was the terms that were related to us. And they all went around and were like, gosh, I don't even remember these terms, but, something like, driven, career focused, just really strong words like, hardworking, multitasker. And then it got to mine, and I was like, nurture and very soft, caring, cooperative. And I was like, I don't want to be those. I want to be what those words were. I
Yeah.
actually felt a little inferior because I felt like, why don't I have those strong attributes like they have? But
Yeah.
I can't force myself to be them.
No. Were you guys all around the same age?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say so. Maybe some were
Okay.
a little bit younger, some were a little older, but
Yeah,
yeah,
because I can see all of that in somebody who's younger. I can see that in the younger me.
yeah.
I don't see that in me anymore. Like
Mhm.
I'm good where I'm at. I don't need to move up the ladder. I am fine where I'm at.
Yeah.
But I think when we were younger, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I was always striving to be up, keep going up the ladder and keep getting a better and better and better position. But not so
Yeah.
much anymore. You kind of tend to slow
Right.
down, and I know my limits, and I know that I'm not that person anymore. I'm not
Yeah.
that person that's going to be able to work straight 12, 14 hours like I used to, but
Oh,
not anymore.
right.
Part of it
Exactly.
because I can't do it, just physically can't do it. And part of it because I don't want to do it.
That's
It's
right.
not
Exactly.
it's not what I want to do. I'd rather be spending some time today. I've, repotted a plant on the patio that I came in. I've been making my dog food for my dogs
Oh,
now.
good.
So I set up
Wow.
the dog food for them. It's cooking in the crock pot, just things like that. I'm
Right.
like, that brings me a little bit more enjoyment than, if I was to be, oh no, let me get back online and let
Right.
me see what I can do so I can be ahead for tomorrow. Tomorrow will come tomorrow.
That's right.
Okay.
But you're right. I think when we were younger, we felt like
Yes.
it was, first of all, it was expected of us from our companies,
Yes.
kind of in a roundabout way, because everybody
Mhm.
else was online typing
Yeah.
and sending emails back and forth. Um,
Yes.
but I think that, I
Or
think
faxes. Back then it was faxes and
But I think in that group of professional women, I really felt like I judged their characteristics that came out of these self-assessment tests as better than mine. And then, I
yeah.
mean, and I then later, years later, I remember thinking about my score and thinking about the words, and I'm like, that's who I am. I can't pretend to
Yeah.
be other, I mean,
Yeah.
because I was answering the questions myself from the way I really felt. And
Right.
I realized that
Right.
I wouldn't be being me if I was just trying to get their answers, and but
No.
but it made me
Yeah.
feel like that they were stronger or better.
Well, but you know what? We don't know if they were actually, that was the true feelings that they had. Maybe they thought this is what I need to have on this paper, because I've taken those assessment tests where they're like, where you have to figure out what color you are or whatever on the wheel. And if you're stronger, if you're red, and you're not so strong if you're yellow. And you can say, well, no, I'm red, but maybe you're not. So that's what maybe those ladies were not even being 100% honest. Maybe they were. I don't know, but maybe they were big time strivers. And I know being younger and the more stress and the more different, duties that I had to do all at the same time, I was the happiest, But now it's like, give me one thing to do and I'm like, I got to work on this one slowly, Don't give me 10 things to do. I need to focus on one at a time. But whereas before, when I was younger, I was so interested in, the more, the better. Oh, I can do that. Yeah, I can be on that committee and I can do this and I can do that. And I'm doing it all at the same time. Not anymore.
I think some of that also comes from being a people pleaser, though, because I feel like I would volunteer for things and nobody else was volunteering for it. And they'd say, why are you volunteering for that? And I'd be like, well, I want to help out. Or was I just trying to please somebody? Was I just trying to, help them with their task, but wasn't really taking a good consideration on what was it going to do to my plate? Was it going to make me busy? So I think I definitely grew up as a people pleaser, wanting people to appreciate me and to, be happy. And then to, I guess to make them happy, I guess. So I don't know if that's right or wrong anymore. I'm not sure where we fall on that people pleaser. I don't think it's good if you're sacrificing yourself in the process.
Yeah, if you're sacrificing yourself and you're not being true to yourself, then it's bad.
Right.
Because then you're just creating stress within yourself because you're like, it's like you want to be doing something else, but you're like, oh no, I have to be the good person or, the person that's going to help everybody. So let me go do all this stuff, but it's really not what you want to do. So in that case, it's like, it works the opposite way and you're helping these other people, but you're really hurting yourself.
That's right.
So, but that takes time because I think when I was younger, I used to do that, but I think now I'm more to the point where no, not going to do that, So I don't know. I guess we change,
We do. We do. For the better.
I think for the better. Yeah.
I guess because we become wiser. But actually that happened to me a few weeks ago. So I sit on the social committee for my neighborhood association, but they had our yearly board meeting, or I don't know, maybe it was the budget meeting actually. And they're like, well, we're looking for some new blood to serve on the board. And my hand's going like this, and my other hand's like, nope. Like in my mind, that's what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm not going to volunteer for it because I've been on the board of the PTA. I did all the, the senior class stuff that we do for the kids when they were in high school. And, there's like 15 parents there out of a class of 750 kids. And you're like, where are your parents? Well, now I realize they were smarter. And they were like, I'm not going to volunteer for everything. But But I also have a lot of fun doing that stuff too. So
it can be fun. Yeah. But it can be, kind of stressful as well. But it can be fun. It just depends. I guess you have to kind of be in the driver's seat, and you're taking it to the fun level that you want. And then once it starts to get stressful, you just turn that wheel and go the other direction. And you're like, I'm out of here. I can't do this.
Yes.
So.
And I think just like they say, pick your battles. I think you have to pick what is important to you to help out with, because I'm not saying people shouldn't be on a PTA or shouldn't help the school and the senior class and whatever grades. But it's on how much you already have on your plate, like we're saying. But at the same time, I felt like it was a worthy cause. I was glad that what we did. And, at that time, I guess I felt like it was really important because being alongside our kids kind of while they're going through those final stages of high school, I think was fun and also important. So I enjoyed all of that. But some of the other things they talked about for regret is that you can fall into two different areas. You can fall into kind of like ruminating on something where you start thinking about it over and over and over. If I had done this, or if I had gone this way, or and to almost like where you're almost creating like a fantasy world around it. Like, My life would
Mhm.
have been so much better if I would have done XYZ, if I would have married
Yeah.
this person rather than this person, or
Right.
whatever. And you create this kind of fantasy world around this perfect, if you would have made this other decision, maybe it would have been a better decision. Maybe it wouldn't have.
Mhm.
But if you
Mhm.
romanticize it in your head and start,
Mhm.
you know, like put it up
Yeah,
on a pedestal,
yeah,
say like, oh, this would have been perfect and I would be so happy. But
right.
that's not necessarily true. And that's actually not very good to do that.
No, because you're wasting your time because,
Sure. That's it.
that's
Yeah.
already passed. So
Mhm.
it's not like it's going to come back around. So
Right.
we have to look at, where we're at today,
Mhm.
and realize that make this your happiness, where you're at today.
Yeah.
Don't worry about, well, if I would have made that left turn at Albuquerque, I'd be married to Prince Charming and,
Right.
everything would just be perfect. Well, no, it is perfect. It's perfect right where you are. You
Right.
can make it perfect whatever it is, wherever you're at, it's perfect because you're there and be
Right.
happy that you're there. Mhm.
That's right. And I think that's what these individuals that all were being interviewed were talking about, is that as you grow older and wiser, you start to realize that some of those things that you thought about or worried about, or I don't know, or maybe that you regret, are not as important as maybe they once were to you. And then they also talked about reclaiming things that maybe, okay, maybe you never learned a second language. Well, now's the next perfect time to do it then, get started.
Yes.
Like we always talk about
Yeah.
traveling. If we just talk about it and never do it, then we didn't, fix that regret. We have to fix it by actually doing it and saying, okay,
Correct.
we haven't traveled everywhere in the world that we want to yet, but we still,
Yes.
and we still will. So, uh,
Yes. Yes.
that's the way to kind of reclaim the regret. But, I,
Mhm.
I have a story, and this is a true story about I guess the relationship that I had with my mom. And of course, it was a good relationship, but it wasn't a great relationship at times. And I was thinking back about this. This is the week that my mom was right before she passed away. She, was in hospice care at home. And the hospice nurses were wonderful. And they gave us each an opportunity to come in and to close the door privately, and they stepped out and we got to talk to our mom, individually, and say whatever we wanted to say. And I was thinking, well, what do I want to say to her, and then I don't know, all of a sudden I had this flashback of when I was, like 10 years old, and I wanted to try out for, I think it was a gymnastics team, and I wanted to do some gymnastics. And actually, even older, I wanted to try out to be a cheerleader. And all I remember my mom saying was, no, because when you don't make it, you're going to be so sad. And so I remember being young and thinking, um, first of all, I didn't like this. She didn't let me do it, or even didn't want to support my interest. And then I think over the years, I really thought that she was just very controlling. And I think as a young person, I really thought she didn't really love me because she just automatically assumed I wouldn't make it. And it was and I don't think she meant for it to be negative, but I took it as a negative because we didn't really talk about it. But and this was, just over the years, I think she was always took that kind of position of being very frightened about things or protective of us, and or me, and it made me feel like, well, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to treat my children like that. But as she was there, and she was, in a little coma, so she wasn't actually able to talk, but they said that she could hear us. And I remember talking to her and saying, Mom, I get it now. It wasn't that you didn't believe in me. It's just loved me so much. You were trying to protect me. And I understand that love now. Of course, I mean, I have grown children and all, but
Yes.
I didn't think about it that way until I knew she was on her deathbed, and I felt that enormous feeling of love for her at that moment. And then I realized this is why she wanted to shield me, because she loved me so much. And it was
Mhm.
hard, really hard to realize I didn't get to say that to her when she was, you
Yeah.
know, alive
Yeah.
and well. I had, but
Mhm.
it was truly just that moment where you realize my whole life, I regretted those missed opportunities of not being able to try out, not being able to go away to college because she was just like, no, you got to stay close to home, and you know, wanting to move out at some point, and she was like, no, you need to stay home until you get married, like lots of no's. And I always regretted that she stopped me in so many different ways. But at the same time, I think that's what she knew best. That was her upbringing. And I think it wasn't coming from a place of maybe control that I thought it was, or hate or anything like that. It was more of just
Yeah.
loving me so much, just
Hmm.
wanting to take care of me. And that's what she thought was best for me. So it was kind of I think it went from being a regret to being I had that moment of forgiveness to her because it had always been inside of me. And I guess because of that, we had
Yeah.
a little bit of a strange relationship where I wasn't as close to her as some of my sisters were, I think, in a way.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I think that because of the way um, her beliefs and all, and she had just never done some things, and she had not gone away to college herself, and so she didn't know how
Right.
to help me to do that. But I think,
Right.
and then I had to figure everything out on my own basically, and did a lot on
Hmm.
my own. But and she was always very very supportive, as I did things, she'd be proud of me and stuff like that. And I knew that.
Hmm.
But deep down inside, I still had those kind of regrets of the things I didn't get to do when I was younger and when she controlled my life, basically.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then I moved to a forgiveness state, and it felt much better. I felt much better, and I thanked her for that. And I hope she heard it. And
I'm
really,
sure she did. Yeah, I'm sure she did because they do say that, they still can hear even though they're in a coma. And that's why they kind of push you to, hey, talk to
they
them.
do.
They're
Yeah,
listening. So I'm glad that you were able and had that opportunity, to
yeah,
talk to her and it helped you. So that's
exactly.
the important part,
I think it
it
was
like you
important.
finally just let that go and
Yeah,
you've been holding it for so long. So that's amazing. That's wonderful. I'm glad you were able to let that go.
yeah. I think you're right. It was more therapeutic probably for me than
Yes.
even for her. And I think that
Yeah.
many times in my life too, I think that I felt like there were times where I would tell myself those type of words, like, maybe you shouldn't try this because, I don't know if I'm smart enough. I don't know, all of this, even when you're going through college, there's a lot of self-doubt. You do all these things to yourself, but I think it was
Mhm.
from years of just the way I was raised, and not knowing for sure what I could do. And so there were
Mhm.
times that I had to push past that, um,
Mhm.
my comfort zone, and say, just keep trying, just keep trying. And
That's good. That's good though. But I mean, you have accomplished a lot. It's not like it's done. You're still continue to accomplish a lot. So that's wonderful.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's something that we all can do, is kind of look at our regrets, whatever
Mhm.
regrets we may have, and figure out a way to maybe release them, to move them to
Yes.
forgiveness. And most of the
Yes.
regrets that we all have are our own regrets, something that we ourselves did. It may not be something that someone else did to you, but it's how
Mhm.
we faced a situation, or a crossroad, or took a job or
Mhm.
didn't take a job.
Mhm.
And so I think we can maybe write those down, start to journal them, and figure out
Yeah.
the areas of opportunity where you can, like we said,
Mhm.
claim them, finish them,
Yes.
release them,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
move away from the negative part of the regret
Yeah.
to a positive, like, this is.
Exactly, because it's our reaction to whatever it is that happened. And the opposite person that was, in that same event that we keep, going over in our brains over and over and over, they've moved on with their
Oh yeah,
lives and they're doing whatever,
right.
whatever it was, whether it was a parent or a cousin or a neighbor or whoever.
Yeah,
But,
right.
and if we're still holding on to it, thinking about it, well, if only I would have said this or I would have done that, I would be here or there or whatever.
Right,
Yeah, just let go. Just be happy, be happy for today, be happy for what we have, our health and
right.
our families, our dogs, whatever we have, just be
Yeah.
happy with that.
But they did say it's very normal to have regrets, and those regrets also help you to learn and grow from things that, that you maybe feel like you didn't do the way you wanted to do, but you learn and grow of how you would
Yeah.
do something else based on
Yeah.
that. So,
I've read something that I just thought about right now is that you can change the storyline. So
Yeah,
say you have a regret about something that happened to you, and at the ending it was very sad because XYZ. Well, you can change that now. You can
right,
decide, you can program your brain to say it didn't end like that. Actually, it ended by me going to get an ice cream cone and being so happy and skipping down the sidewalk or whatever, depending on the age, of course,
right,
or it could be I did it yesterday. I don't know, but so you can change the storyline and you can
right.
say, no, this is the way it happened. And it does program your brain, and your brain is like, oh, okay, it's no longer a bad memory. Now it just had a happy ending. So
I agree. Yeah, and I agree the same way I feel about not going away to college. Because I feel like my husband and I ended up getting married earlier, went to college together, but we also had children earlier, maybe than if I would have gone to college, probably wouldn't have had them at the same point in time, or may not have
mhm,
had them at all. Maybe they, and of course, that would be worse than have going
mhm,
away to college. So
mhm.
so I don't regret that when I think about not going away to college that way, because I knew that I definitely know that I have the children that I always wanted, and I'm happy about that. And I feel like because I never went away to college, um, when I actually got my postgraduate fellowship at Harvard, I felt like that was kind of like reclaiming that experience that I never had. I moved away
Mhm.
by myself. I lived by
Yeah,
myself for
that's
that
true.
year,
Mhm.
and I was
Yeah,
going to a college campus every day and
yeah.
worked on campus
Mhm,
as well. But it kind of
mhm.
was like a reclaiming of that I missed out on, because all my friends would
Yeah,
talk about, well, when I was in college, and you're like, oh, I didn't have that type of experience. I didn't live on campus, So
yeah.
I'm sorry, that was a reclaiming opportunity, but at the same time,
So
like I
that
said,
was kind of nice. Yeah.
yeah, a good experience. So I think we can always look at, maybe the regret is something, but at the same time, you can always say, like you said, changing the storyline, but also saying,
Mhm.
well, what better thing happened because that didn't happen? And
Right,
yeah,
right. Yeah. Yeah, my mom was kind of different. My mom was more like a pusher. Like I can remember being, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years old, and we were downtown because we lived in that small little town in Eagle Pass, so there was no malls or anything like that. So we were downtown, and we needed some money to put in the little meter
oh,
because
okay.
we had parked the car. And she gave me $1, and she said, "Go into that store over there, which was a jewelry store, and ask them for change because we need money for the meter." And I was like, what? I don't remember. I was like 5 or 6, but I was terrified.
Oh, sure.
I was just terrified. And she looked at me and she said, "You're going to do it, and you're not going to be scared. You go in there and you ask them for the change."
Wow.
And I said, "Okay." And so there I went. And I could barely reach the counter, and I'm like,
Oh,
put the dollar up there. And I said,
yeah.
I need some
Oh,
change. And they gave me the change, but it was always that type. My mother was always, no, you've got to go out there and you've got to do it for yourself.
that's
And I
great.
think about it now. Yeah, I mean, it was a good thing. It's not a bad thing,
Right. It's
but
good.
at that time, it was like, oh my God, I was trembling. I was so scared. But if somebody doesn't give you that little push, and it can be with anything,
Hmm.
you sometimes you don't do it. You won't do it. So yeah.
I do remember the first night we drove Kevin to college, and I remember dropping him off, and we were staying in a hotel, and we dropped him off in his dorm room and set it all up, and we were like, well, okay, goodbye. We'll come back and see you tomorrow. He said, oh, I thought we were all going to dinner together. And I said, no, you have to stay here and make friends with everybody because this is moving day. You should stay
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
friends. And of course, I get back to my hotel room and I just start crying and crying because I felt like
Yeah.
I could tell he was disappointed because he was so used to being with us that
Yeah.
it was, I had to like kind of like cut the ties and like, no,
Yeah.
but inside
That's
just like, oh my gosh, I just left my
yeah.
be there all by himself.
That's funny because I think and I kind of did what my mom would do, which would be push my son always, no, go do it, and you can do it, and you can do it, and if you need help, you ask whatever. Anyway, so the day that we dropped him off at the university, I mean, he got out of the truck and he had his backpack and he had his bag and he had his pillow. He was like, "Bye," and I was
Oh,
like, whoa, wait.
okay.
So
Oh,
I mean, he was like, "No problem." He was like, "See ya."
he was ready. Oh yeah.
He
That
was
sounds like
ready.
my
He was
daughter.
ready to go.
Yeah, that sounds more like my daughter. She was ready to go.
Yeah.
We were in her dorm room and
Yeah.
we were kind of like, it was too small a room for all of us all to be there. And then we were kind of getting on each other's nerves and then we're like, okay, it's time for us to go. And then we
Yeah.
in the hallways, kind of mad at each other. And then 2 seconds later, we all just started crying at the same time and hugged each other.
Oh,
It was always just very moving whenever
yeah.
leaving
Yeah.
them. But
It is tough that, that dropping them off at kinder and then dropping them off when you're dropping them off at college is I don't know, it's very
Dang.
emotional. Yeah, I cried
Yeah.
too. I cried on the way home. I was like, oh my
yeah.
God, that's
Oh,
it.
yeah.
He's gone. So,
Yeah, that's very
but anyway, yeah.
well.
But anyway, friends, keep in mind, just if you have regrets, try to put them behind you. Try to think about, your present and think about your future, maybe occupy your time with something else. If there was, or maybe there was a regret that you can still go back and do, whatever it was. Maybe you didn't finish school, you could go back to school. You could take one course at a time. Maybe it was whatever it was, planting a garden, go back and do it. Whatever it was, you can still do it. We're still here, we're still kicking, so you can still do it.
That's right. I think journaling and writing down those kind of things, and we're doing a oral journal kind of together. But I think that's what we all have to do is really do self-assessment and see what might be something that's a regret or holding you back in some way and figure out a way how to release it. So, but
Yes.
well, we look forward to hearing what your topic's going to be next week, and we'll be back to hear Nora's topic.
Definitely. But thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And your comments are fabulous. So we love to read the comments. If you have any ideas or anything that you would like for us to talk about, put it in the comments. We'll be more than happy to discuss it. Who knows?
Love to hear from you for sure. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.